Using all our stealth to pass through the secret door as quietly as possible, we slowly climbed some stone stairs and soon found ourselves back within the Onyx Temple. Some 40 feet away was Sandaria, standing alongside her crystal golem and making her final preparations to sacrifice Kartha, animate her statue and smash the Onyx seal, effectively returning the world to the Age of Damnation. It appeared we were in the nick of time. A surprise attack on Sandaria might just work. "Hey, race the plan," I whispered to my fellow heroes, still out of sight. On my signal, we hit her with everything we have. Eswin and Ariana, try a volley of bullets from your slings before rushing to attack. Red Fern, hit her with a magic missile. Saint use that scroll of spiritual hammer we found. I will leap into the shadows and try to backstab her as soon as I can. Now, timing our attack perfectly, both Eswin and Ariana struck Sandaria from behind with their stone bullets, just as Red Fern's magic missile struck her as well. Momentarily confused, Sandaria was then clobbered by the magical floating hammer from Saint while I snuck into the shadows surrounding the former circle representative and waited for the right moment to strike. Significantly wounded even before she could defend herself, Sandaria quickly retaliated with a lethal fireball, blasting the secret door we had just emerged from but only slightly wounding Saint and Red Fern. Their blades already drawn, Eswin and Ariana then leaped directly for the sorceress, Sandaria narrowly avoiding their initial attacks as Red Fern used a scroll of magic missile to further wound the woman. Slower than Eswin and Ariana, Saint nonetheless drew his mace and quickly approached Sandaria as well, his magical hammer above automatically striking her and dealing even more damage. Recognizing her suddenly dire situation, Sandaria whirled about and struck most of the party with a web spell, entangling everyone but myself in sticky goo and immobilizing them for several minutes. Distracted by the rest of the party, I then used the opportunity to strike from the shadows, attempting to bury that ornate dagger given to me by Rachel's father deep into the back of Sandaria. However, the sorceress parried the attack at the last moment. My attempt to backstab from the shadows had failed. Standing there, it was my little dagger against her power and sudden fury, and it looked like the end for us. As Sandaria began conjuring a final fireball to wipe all of us out, the magical hammer cast by Saint struck her yet again, nearly knocking her unconscious. I then leaped forward again and this time buried my dagger straight into the woman's chest. Sandaria staggered backward, dropped to one knee, then fell over on her back, defeated. Sandaria screamed in frustration one last time and then expired, her twisted plans dying with her. After drawing a huge sigh of relief, I cut my fellow heroes free from the magical web and then helped Kartha down from the crystal golem. All of us reunited around the corpse of Sandaria moments later. "I can't believe we defeated the Angel of Death," Ariana summarized, putting away her weapon. "Too bad it had to be this way. What happened to all of you?" Kartha asked, astonished we were still alive. "I didn't think I would see any of you again." "We'll tell you on our way back to Kathleen," Eswin answered, stepping toward the crystal golem still holding the life's heart. "First, let's recover this artifact and get the hell out of here." As Eswin approached the crystal golem, it suddenly animated as if alive and turned toward our party, holding the life's heart in such a way as to use it as a bludgeoning weapon against us. "What is this?" Saint cried, shocked along with everyone else in the party. "Sandaria, she's transferred her own soul into the golem," Kartha shouted, readying her weapon. "We must destroy the golem." It appeared the situation had just gone from bad to worse. While the crystal golem was certainly a fearsome opponent, especially equipped with the life's heart as a weapon, we were surprised when the animated statue turned away from us and marched straight to the onyx seal, beginning to smash at it instead. "Dear Sisla!" Saint screamed, utterly horrified by the actions of Sandaria's spirit within the golem. "She's trying to destroy the seal, stop it before we're all doomed." Now recognizing the true motive of the crystal golem, all of us grabbed our weapons and rushed to the automaton, striking it as it continued to slam the life's heart into the onyx seal. The fate of the entire world was in our hands. If we couldn't stop the golem quickly, the seal would shatter and release the Hellions from the realm of nightmares directly into our world again. All of us tired and wounded from our battle with Sandaria, we nevertheless battled furiously against the crystal golem, the monster swiping at us in between its violent blows against the onyx seal. Despite the strength and resilience of the crystal golem, Saint finally landed a blow that shattered the creature's left leg, causing it to fall to one side, and no longer capable of striking the onyx seal. We then jumped upon the golem and bashed it further. A final blow was struck and the monster shattered into thousands of pieces. A final wail was heard from Sandaria as her spirit was set free. The angel of death was now dead herself. As if on cue, Sanairs reached into the pile of crystal slivers and grabbed the life's heart, holding it high for everyone to see. While exhausted from our battles, everyone smiled, the quest complete. Sanairs then handed the artifact to me, trusting that I would take the best care of it for the journey back to Kathleen. The inner circle needs to know what's happened here, Redfern began, quite aware of his lowly status within the party but taking a stand, nonetheless. Shut up, charlatan. Eswin barked back, the magic user now an even stronger enemy to him. No, he's right, Kartha added, surprisingly. The inner circle needs to know everything that's transpired here. Sandaria may have lost her way, but she wasn't wrong about everything. Yes, at some point we will inform the circle of what's happened, I agreed, knowing that at some point they would need to become involved. But for now, we have other things to worry about. Let's go. And with that, our party started preparing to make the 3-day journey back to Kathleen. A moment later, a thunderous crack was heard, its vibration so powerful that it shook the very foundation of the ancient temple. Frantically looking about, it didn't take long to recognize that the sound came from the onyx seal, and as we approached, another crack reverberated through the area, then another. A beam of intense light and energy then shot forth from the seal, burning through the building's ceiling like an unstoppable laser beam, and all we could do was watch. What's happening? Ariana finally whispered, all of us transfixed on the crumbling seal. It's the beginning of the end. Sanairs responded sadly, his shock and horror obvious. That's one thing I will agree with you on, Kartha added, the mutant also quite aware of what was about to happen. Eswin then turned to me, demanding to know what I was going to do to save them. Sanairs, can't you tap the life's heart's power? I asked with urgency, hoping against hope. Not a bad idea, Sanairs acknowledged in return, but none of us here possess the power to tap the life's heart, and even if we did, the seal will break apart completely in just a few minutes and everything within a day's run will be utterly disintegrated. All of us are already dead. A second beam of light broke through just overhead, almost decapitating some of us. More intense cracking sounds were then heard as the onyx seal further disintegrated, the large chamber beginning to light up as if within a severe thunderstorm. As the end approached, a strong breeze pushed past all of us, quickly gaining in strength until it became almost a gale that we could barely stand against. Our party instinctively gathered closely together, but there didn't seem to be a thing we could do to save ourselves. The light now fully engulfing the temple, the air around us quickly heated as well, a gigantic, apocalyptic explosion now imminent. Sensing the end but still refusing to give up, Eswin turned to Redfern, grabbing him about the shoulders and having to shout directly into his face to make his desperate plea heard. Wizard, you're our last hope. Eswin screamed defiantly. Get us out of here. Now. I can't. Redfern shouted back, unable to help. There is nothing I can do. Yes you can. Eswin returned, so utterly desperate. Teleport us out of here. Save us. Through the maelstrom, I couldn't tell if Redfern had agreed to try something, the air now so hot that it was starting to set our clothes on fire. Standing there, my final thoughts focused on my adventuring party and how much I truly wished I could somehow save them. Yes, my new friends were certainly a hodgepodge, Redfern, a supposed truistic who accidentally killed his own father, Eswin, a loner with his own curse-laden secrets, Sanairs and Kartha, two clerics of opposite faiths who utterly despised one another, and Ariana, an innocent who watched her own brother die recently. If only I could have learned more about these unique heroes. The light and heat now unbearable, everyone began to scream as the end arrived, the seal about to explode like a nuclear bomb. I managed one last glance about, all our deaths now just moments away. The onyx seal then disintegrated completely, the resulting explosion tearing at our ears and causing everything to go dark. Suddenly, and quite unexpectedly, the light and heat and wind and terror abruptly all ended, and, of all places, we found ourselves back within the power tower of Kathleen, Lord Robert just as surprised to see us as we were to see him. All of us were still smoldering from the intense heat, and it would likely take days to fully recover from the ordeal, but here we were, within the court of Lord Robert, safe and sound. Utterly bewildered, Robert stood to his feet and slowly approached, the whole of our party still too stunned to do or say anything. As the shock and awe slowly faded, however, several of my heroes looked at one another, so very surprised and happy to merely be alive, let alone standing again within Robert's power tower, far from the horrors of evil root. Pushing his exhausted and aching body forward, Saint then stepped past me, his own look of utter sadness reminding me of the new world we now found ourselves within. Lord Robert, we bear the gravest of news, Saint lamented, the priest quite weak from our ordeal. The lordly hero looked all of us over again, still surprised by our apparent teleportation back. Yet Saint was persistent as he forced himself to utter words he never thought he'd ever say. My lord, a second age of damnation is upon us. As if on cue, a distant explosion, more like a volcanic eruption, shook the entire tower, a harbinger of all the terrible things to come. For a moment, Robert only stared at our party, the words of Saint too horrific to fully grasp. As my friends around me began to collapse from the terrible experience we had all just suffered, Robert turned and dashed to a window facing south. There, in the far distance, rose a fiery column of grey smoke, tiny from where we stood but every bit as horrific as I recognized it truly to be. Stunned and horrified, for nearly a minute all Lord Robert could do was stare at the sight in the distance, the surreal imagery burning itself into his subconscious. The world has changed forever, I finally said, breaking the silence. Saint nodded in agreement, joining us and peering out the window himself. I agree, Lomtora, Sicelus may never be the same. The Hellions were almost impossible to stop a millennium ago, and that was with the help and protection of our great goddess Sisla the Deliverer. I hope we can find a way to come together again and somehow stop these monsters from destroying us all. The Lord of Kathleen drew a deep, heavy breath, then questioned my party again, expecting the worst. And the life's heart? Is it lost as well? Having almost forgotten about the sacred relic, I grinned as I retrieved the life's heart from my backpack and handed the artifact to Robert, the warrior almost as surprised to see it as he was to see all of us just a few minutes ago. Momentarily forgetting everything else, Lord Robert's eyes lit up as he took the incredibly powerful item from me, holding it up triumphantly for all to see. Almost too tired to speak any further, our party simply stood there and watched as Robert inspected the artifact, bewildered by our apparent success. And the Angel of Death? Robert inquired, assuming she had been dealt with as well. She will never again trouble this land, Eswin offered, extremely proud to have helped take out such a powerful, corrupted sorceress. I don't feel so good, Ariana then gasped, passing out from the ordeal and dropping into Eswin's arms, he himself on the verge of collapse. About to speak again, Robert looked at our weary and battered party. Redfern had a blackened eye and could barely stand. Cartha was already down on one knee and both Saint and I could drop over from sheer exhaustion at any time as well. Recognizing this, Robert escorted all of us to the guest floor of the tower where my party was allowed to unequip themselves, wash up and collapse into a small group of fine beds, each of us so deserving of the rest we were about to receive. The next 12 hours passed by almost as a blur, my entire adventuring party so utterly exhausted from our encounter with Sandaria that it basically took half a day to sleep it off. I finally awoke and immediately sensed that not all was well. Lying on a worn and disheveled cot, I was apparently the last to awaken, the rest of my party staring awkwardly at me. Quickly looking about, the chamber I found myself in was perhaps 20 feet to a side and rather dark, with just a single magical light glowing near the ceiling above. I didn't see any windows and only noticed a single door, which was likely locked and barred from the outside. At last, young Lomtora, you're awake, an older voice commented from the shadows. Saint Ariana and Redfern closest to me, I called on Ariana for answers. You've been asleep for nearly 12 hours, the young elven fighter whispered to me, not sure what to think. I don't think he means us any harm. Slowly gaining my feet, I watched as an elderly but stately wizard stepped forward, keeping his distance but the most powerful magic user I had ever encountered. Dressed in simple lavender robes with a dark hood and full, grey beard, I suspected that the old man was of supreme importance and that humility and respect were in order. I am Vel, the inner circle representative to Pyrepa, and all of you are my prisoners. We return the life's heart and were the enemy? Huelsman asked, clearly not appreciating Vel's presence there with us within the jail cell. Nothing in life is fair, all of you should know that by now, the Circle Wizard responded, not surprised. Alas, yes, you recovered the life's heart, but you've also helped cause a planet-wide calamity. His utter hatred for magic users most apparent, Huelsman growled and slowly reached for his sword. Redfern stopped the warrior, however, quickly offering appropriate words of advice. No, Huelsman, don't. He could wipe us out with the blink of an eye if he wanted to. Let him speak. Vel took a step forward, acknowledging Redfern's wisdom before continuing. I am sure all of you realize by now that with the destruction of the Onyx Seal, you've let loose an utter catastrophe upon all Mariga. But what you probably don't know is that the whole of the Inner Circle now believes you are at least partially responsible. And for that, you could all be sentenced to death. My intuition told me that the old man must have been bluffing. Why would our lives suddenly be in danger for having rescued the life's heart and, mostly completing the quest? We understand, Vel, Redfern returned, taking the wizard deathly seriously. We were there. We failed to stop the Onyx Seal from being destroyed. We returned with our lives, instead of sacrificing them to prevent this new Armageddon. In the eyes of the Inner Circle, we are unworthy to continue with our lives. Vel focused on Redfern, peering into his very soul perhaps before responding. This novice mage understands. All of you have brought such dishonor and shame upon yourselves that the Circle has ordered your arrest and, likely, execution. And I have come for you. Vel looked quite serious, eyeing each of us as the desperate criminals he likely believed we were. The whole thing still seemed unreasonable to me, prompting me to voice that opinion moments later. We did everything we possibly could. Perhaps, but those efforts are irrelevant given the magnitude of the destruction that is coming, the wizard responded, morbidly serious. If your mistakes ultimately cause so many to die, then why should you be allowed to live? As word spreads of your failures, and more are slain by the Hellions that are coming, executing you here and now may actually be easiest for all of you. So that's it, then? Huelsman lamented, a combination of disgust as well as fear in his voice. We beat back the Angel of Death's army, we slew this Sandaria ourselves and we brought the life's heart back to Kathleen safe and sound. Doesn't that amount to anything? Not according to Circle law, Redfern responded, his knowledge of lore regarding the Inner Circle supreme within the party. The Circle holds itself and everyone serving it to the highest standards, and its reverence for the code, which Sisla herself passed down to the Circle, is absolute. We all deserve to die. Silence filled the chamber, all of us in shock at how abruptly our lives seemed about to end. Damn Sandaria! Huelsman cursed, unable to accept such a fate for having done his best. If only her execution had actually killed her a year ago. Sandaria was a victim, just like all of you are now, Vel suggested, surprising the party. I knew her well, she believed strongly in justice and equity and doing the right thing. She was an advocate for the less fortunate, and she wasn't afraid to break the rules when those rules were worth breaking. That's probably why she turned so evil in the end, after the Sislan way fooled the people of Kathleen into believing that she was a traitor and had her brutally burned at the stake. Isn't that correct? Sislan? The mighty Circle Wizard now gazing upon Saint-Airs with surprising fury, I turned to Saint-Airs as well, the cleric under assault by the truth. Indeed, I recalled Sandaria herself condemning the Sislan way for betraying her and convincing the good people of Kathleen to cruelly execute her at the stake. And surely Saint-Airs knew about it, the cleric appearing quite uncomfortable at the moment. That's right. Kartha cried out, herself remembering Sandaria's words as the party was suspended above the pit leading to the tomb of Huelsman. You, Sislan, helped in the plot to burn an innocent woman alive. For all your talk and hypocrisy about doing the right thing, you helped murder Sandaria, an actual member of the Inner Circle. No wonder why the Circle now wants us all dead. I was only obeying orders. Saint-Airs cried back, deeply conflicted over what had happened. I had no say in whether Sandaria was guilty or innocent, I just did what I was told to do. For a moment, I thought back on my own life in Tobin, and all the times I wanted to question the importance of following through on what had been asked of me. But, in the end, one's honor can be more important than life itself. Saint-Airs likely did the right thing by following his orders. Or did he? Anyway, my duty now is to keep all of you here in this cell until the Inner Circle decides if and when to execute you, Vel returned, almost mocking Saint-Airs. I ask each of you, should I follow through on that duty as well? Or should I take your extreme circumstances into consideration and offer you an alternative? You would do that? Ariana asked innocently, the question on all our minds. Sandaria understood this, and I understand this too. The inner circle, the Sislan way, Sisla's code, it's all broken, pure and simple. Our entire culture prides itself on all the dogma handed down by Sisla nearly 1,000 years ago, but much of it makes no sense here and today. Indeed, the real threat to our future is this senseless dogma from the past. Whoa. I couldn't believe what Vel was telling us. He actually didn't believe in the structure and order of things? Your words border on blasphemy and even treason, Sainair sputtered, incredibly shocked by the comments. The Sislan way is the only way, I can't believe what I am hearing. Let's put this all another way, Vel continued. Most feel that Sisla's code is the only way to govern the masses, that supposedly she was the only one who ever knew best. But look at our world, how most people struggle to survive, how the powerful and affluent seem to constantly seek advantage over the weak and destitute. Can each of us truly look into our own hearts and think that our way of life now is somehow as good as it can ever be? Shouldn't we seek a better life for everyone, even if it means abandoning Sisla's very code? Can't we just leave things as they are? I meekly asked, not wanting to argue with a circle wizard. Indeed, all this talk about Sisla, her code, how the inner circle and its rival the Sislan way saw the world, it was all a bit much. After all, I was just one person trying to make my way through an incredibly complicated world. What could I possibly do to change a millennium of laws and culture? Several silent, awkward moments passed by, my party wrestling with what Vel was trying to say. The circle wizard then continued. Whether you agree or not, this is what Sandaria was fighting for, here in Kathleen before the Sislans sabotaged her efforts, framed her for the coming of the first undead and had her burned alive. She was trying to make the world a better place, and now it's your turn. My heroes looked at one another in confusion, then turned to Vel again as he continued to push the issue. Each of you had a hand in taking the life of Sandaria, my sister inner circle representative. Worse, each of you is indirectly responsible for the coming of a new age of damnation, so all your lives are forfeit. But I am prepared to offer you a second chance, a chance at redemption, an opportunity to win your lives back and atone for what you've done. And what do you want in return? Kartha queried, intrigued with the conversation. For now, all you must do is trust me. Can you do that if I spare you and set you free? Talking it over for a moment, the party quickly reached consensus. Yes, my heroes would trust Vel, given that he seemed willing to actually let us go. All of us were still quite concerned, of course, but for now I considered ourselves lucky that we would at least be given a chance to fight another day. All of you need to flee Kathleen at once. Vel then called out, his voice quite authoritative again. I hear tell that the capital city of Hope Air to the east is under duress. I will teleport all of you back to the Wilex River, there, take the road east to the mountains that protect the city of Nace, head north, and discover what is going on. More undead, like Kathleen? Redfern asked, shuddering the thought. No, I don't think anything so dire this time, Vel responded, gathering each of us into a circle, about to teleport us away. I believe this next quest will be just as challenging as your last, but in a completely different way. My heroes grouped together, feeling quite uneasy about how quickly Vel was sending us off on another quest and not taking the time to explain himself. Still, it was better than being trapped in this cold jail cell waiting for the inner circle to execute all of us. Before your journey to Nace, I want all of you to first see for yourselves the doom you've helped unleash upon us, Vel whispered, his seriousness quite apparent. Don't stay long, none of you are powerful enough yet to make any real difference. Just see for yourselves the danger we now face, then head east. For letting us escape, Vel didn't seem to believe in our party all that much. Well, be more careful this time, I suggested, trying to ease everyone's concerns there in the jail cell. Of course, I wasn't convinced we had truly done anything wrong in the first place, but, given the circumstances, and the absolute authority possessed by Vel, promising that we would be more careful seemed appropriate given that he was allowing us to escape and continue our adventuring career. Vel nodded in acknowledgement of my response, offering one last bit of advice. Now, Long Tora, I return your fate to you. Each of you, go forth, and not only do what heroes do, but see the world for what it truly is and make up your own minds not by what you've been told in the past, but by what you see and feel and experience yourselves here in the now. I set you free not because you don't deserve execution, but because I believe all of you can carry on from what Sandaria and I started and find the courage and inner strength to save this land from all its enemies. Especially itself. And with that, Vel uttered a single, extremely powerful word of magic, and we were suddenly transported half a country to the southeast. And that's a wrap of episode number 11, Age of Damnation. Expect additional episodes every few weeks as the story continues.